to restore and build Jerusalem. As you see here, Jeremiah receives his prophecy in 587 BCE. In 586 BCE, the actual temple was destroyed, which is the timeline in which we're going to start from as far as the prophecy is concerned, because it is regarding the temple. All right, it's regarding our disobedience, or the disobedience of the children of Israel. It's concerning the nation of Israel, and that's what this prophecy is really concerned with. Now, King Cyrus in 536 BCE is when he gives the actual decree to rebuild the temple. In 538 BCE, I want to notate here that the governor, King Cyrus appointed a governor named Zerubbabel, who is the one who begins rebuilding the temple. So 2 years later, he's rebuilding this temple. Or 2 years earlier, he was appointed governor, and he's the one who starts rebuilding the temple. In 522 BCE, there was some affliction going on. So during this time, Darius actually takes over, and he's king of Persia. And there was some affliction that went on during that time frame, and so they stopped building the temple in 522 BCE, and then King Darius, he gives the decree to resume the building of the temple again in 520 BCE. So I put that in here because there is a 2-year window in which there's 2 years that we have to account for, and I'll show you the math in that. And then 515 BCE is when the building of the temple is complete. And there's some secular history says 518 BCE. So give or take a few years, we're still within the window, okay? Depending on when all this happens. So if we're going to go by these dates, it'll all fit. If you slide 2 or 3 years later, it still fits. All right. So as we go into this prophecy, I want to show you this timeline. There's 2 schools of thoughts here. So with the green arrows, you'll see if we were to actually check out the 70-year prophecy timeline, and of course we got to go by what the angel said when he gave this prophecy over to Daniel, when he broke it down for Daniel. But there's 2 ways to look at it. There's 2 ways that people tend to look at it. They can look at it from the time in which Nebuchadnezzar started rulership in Babylon, when we became captive into Babylon, we being Israel, children of Israel. In that time frame, they were exiled and held captive under the rulership of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. So starting from his rulership, 605 BCE, until the time that King Cyrus gives the decree to rebuild the temple, which is 536 BCE, is 69 years. Again, the 62 years plus the 7 years equals 69 years. That fits perfectly in that time frame. It also fits with when the decree was given from whoever the prince is, or whoever the anointed one was. So it could be looked at from that perspective. Otherwise, the other school of thought is from the time that the temple was actually destroyed. Now, prophet Jeremiah was given this prophecy in 587 BCE. 1 year later, the temple's destroyed. So if we go by the time frame in which the temple was destroyed, which is 586 BCE, up until the point to when the temple is actually completed, is 515 BCE, and that is also a total of 69 years. We had to subtract 2 years from the time frame because of 522 BCE and 520, when the time of affliction is to when the temple was stopped from being rebuilt, and then they resumed building the temple 2 years later during King Darius's decree. So you have to calculate all that math in there, and then you'll come up with the 69 years. All right, so now we look down the road, and 167 BCE is when Antiochus Epiphanes comes on the scene, and that's when he abominates. The abomination of desolation is when he goes in and he actually desolates the set apart place. All right, and we can read that in 1 Maccabees chapter 1 from verses 41 through 64, and get the rundown on all of that. And again, we'll read through all this. I'll show you the references later, which is the next slide. All right, so if we go to Jeremiah chapter 25, let's start there. We're going to start at verses 1 through 12, and we will take you to give you some understanding as far as this timeline, whether or not these facts actually fit according to the word of Yah. So let's start from the very first verse. It says, the word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Yehuda within the 4th year of Jehoiakim, son of Yoshiyahu, the king of Yehuda, which was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. So again, that's 605 BCE. We know what time frame now that this is. So Jeremiah receives this prophecy according to this verse here. You actually see when this all took place. So Jeremiah the prophet spoke to all the people of Yehuda and to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, from the 13th year of Yoshiyahu, son of Ammon, king of Yehuda, even to this day, this is the 23rd year in which the word of Yah has come to me, and I've spoken to you, rising early and speaking, but you have not listened. Moreover, Yah has sent to you all of his servants, the prophets, rising early and sending them, but you have not listened nor inclined your ear to hear, saying, turn back now everyone from his evil way and from the evil of your deeds, and dwell on the soil which Yah has given to you and your fathers forever and ever. And do not go after other mighty ones to serve them and to bow down to them, and do not provoke me with the works of your hands, so that I do no evil. But you did not listen to me, declares Yah, so as to provoke me with the works of your hands for your own evil. Therefore thus says Yah of hosts, because you did not obey my words, see, I am sending and taking all of the tribes of the north, declares Yah, and Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babel, my servant, and shall bring them against the land and against its inhabitants and against these nations all around, and shall put them under the ban, and make them an astonishment and a hissing and everlasting ruins. And I shall banish them from the voice of rejoicing and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, the sound of the millstones and the light of the lamp. And all this land shall be a ruin and a waste, and these nations shall serve the king of Babel 70 years. And it shall be, when 70 years are completed, that I shall punish the king of Babel and that nation, the land of the Chaldeans, for their crookedness, declares Yah, and shall make it everlasting ruins. And I shall bring on that land all my words which I have pronounced against it. Okay, now, so let me go back to this timeline here. When you go back to this, let's move back on the timeline so you guys can see this. King Nebuchadnezzar rules. King Cyrus comes on the scene in like 530 something BC. So that's again 70 years. That's within the 70-year time frame. So that's that first school of thought, remember? So if you go from the Nebuchadnezzar when he was anointed to be the one to rule over us, and then time frame when Cyrus comes on the scene, you got 69 years. That's the 70-year prophecy timeline. All right, so that's just one way to look at it. Now the next way, the next verse that we're going to go into is Jeremiah 29, verse 10. For thus says Yah, when 70 years are completed at Babel, I shall visit you and establish my good word toward you to bring you back to this place. So we're going to be in captivity for 70 years. That's just kind of a continuance of this prophecy. Now if we go to 1 Maccabees, verse 1, or chapter 1, and we're going to start at verse, actually I put the wrong verse, I put 10 here, when actually I meant to put 41, so that's a typo. I'll fix that. I'll put that in the notes here. So we're going to start at chapter 1, and we're going to start at verse 41. You can read, you can actually start reading from verse 10, and it will give a lot more detail about Antiochus. So you know, it's okay if you want to go ahead and start from 10. That's okay, because then you actually will see more about Antiochus and what happened and how he set up a gymnasium and just all of the wicked stuff that he did. But we're going to go right into the meat of it, which is in verse 41, where it says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yes, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and to the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people. set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrificed